Hello, my name is Donna. At 31 years old, I find myself living a peaceful life in a quaint, lesser-known town where I work at the local library. My life might seem uneventful to some, but it feels just right to me. I've always preferred solitude, surrounded by the quiet comfort of books rather than the bustling noise of the outside world. Our library, a charming structure with squeaky floors and well-worn shelves, feels like a sanctuary to me. Every morning, I unlock the library doors at 7 a.m., flick on the lights, and am greeted by the familiar, comforting aroma of aged paper and bound leather, a daily ritual that I cherish. I grew up under the care of my grandmother after losing my parents at a young age. She was a nurturing soul, always pushing me toward books and knowledge. Sadly, she too has passed away, leaving me without any immediate family, just me and my small, serene world. "Good morning, Donna," Edward calls out as he enters. He's an elderly gentleman who devotes his days to absorbing historical narratives. "Good morning, Edward," I respond, smiling as I inform him, "The latest history books you were waiting for arrived yesterday. I've set them aside for you." He thanks me with a chuckle, making his way to his favorite shelf. My days are filled with familiar faces, helping children select books for school, suggesting a romantic story to Mrs. Evelyn, or directing Mr. Arthur to the sci-fi section. It's a predictable life, but it's mine, and I love it for its simplicity and routine. Then, unexpectedly, everything shifted the day Daniel walked in. He didn't fit the typical library-goer mold with his sharp suit and self-assured demeanor. "Can you help me find a book?" he asked with a smooth, engaging voice. "Certainly," I replied, a bit flustered, leading him to the classics. As I handed him The Great Gatsby, our fingers briefly touched, sparking an unexpected surge of emotion. "Thank you, Donna," he said, glancing at my name tag. "I'm Daniel. Nice to meet you." That brief exchange was just the beginning. It marked the start of a love story I never anticipated, one that would pull me from the quiet security of my world into a whirlwind of unpredictability and deception. If only I had known what awaited, perhaps things would have played out differently. But life doesn't come with warnings, and sometimes we must learn through our experiences. Daniel started visiting the library more often, which was surprising since he didn't seem particularly interested in books. Each visit, he would ask for recommendations and linger to chat. One day, as I was organizing a shipment of new books, he offered to help. "Need a hand with that?" he asked, approaching me. "That would be great, thanks," I replied, relieved. As we shelved books together, he inquired, "So, Donna, what drew you to working in a library?" I shrugged. "I've always loved books. They're like friends, you know. Plus, it's peaceful here." He chuckled warmly. "I can see that. It's like stepping into an entirely different world," he said, his eyes reflecting genuine interest. Our conversations lengthened with each of his visits, and I learned that Daniel was involved in his family's real estate business. He was a natural conversationalist, and for the first time in years, I felt truly seen and heard. Then, one unexpected day, Daniel caught me off guard. "Donna, would you like to have dinner with me tonight?" he asked, his hopeful gaze making my heart skip a beat. Surprised, I managed, "Like a date?" He grinned. Yes, exactly like a date. This was all new to me, but there was something irresistibly genuine about him that nudged me to accept. "Okay, sure, I'd like that," I responded, my voice steadier than I felt. We chose a small, unpretentious restaurant in town for our date. It was simple yet warm, a perfect setting for us. We chatted about various topics, drifting from serious discussions to light-hearted banter. For a few precious hours, I forgot about my usually reserved and solitary life. As we walked home, Daniel mentioned, "I had a great time tonight, Donna. You're very different from the people I usually meet." I didn't know what to say, so I just smiled. He continued, "I'd like to see you again. Would that be okay?" My heart warmed and I nodded. "Yes, I'd like that." From then on, our relationship grew. We saw each other often, dining out, taking strolls, exploring the little nooks of our town. For the first time, I felt connected to a life beyond books and the quiet routine I was used to. Before long, I fell deeply for him. Daniel was charming and thoughtful, making me feel cherished and unique. When he proposed, I didn't hesitate. I said yes. Looking back, I wish I could have discerned the facade behind his charm, the signs that things were not as perfect as they seemed. Love can often blind us, making us overlook potential warnings, and I was deeply, perhaps blindly, in love. After our engagement, things began to shift, especially with his family. His parents were not supportive from the start. They looked down on me because I wasn't from a wealthy background. The first dinner at their expansive, elegant home was nerve-wracking. "Donna, this is my mother Susan and my father Brian," Daniel introduced. "Nice to meet you," I said, attempting to hide my nervousness. Susan scrutinized me from head to toe, and Brian's disapproval was immediate. "Daniel, couldn't you find someone more suitable?" His words stung, and I felt utterly out of place. The dinner dragged on, filled with uncomfortable silences and subtle digs at my expense. Despite their clear disdain, Daniel defended me, which only made me love him more. Before our wedding, they insisted on a prenuptial agreement, claiming it was merely a formality. With little to lose, I agreed without protest. Once married, I moved into Daniel's home, which was actually still under his parents' control. This shift marked the beginning of a new chapter, one that would test the strength of my newfound love and alter the course of my life in ways I never expected. Daniel's parents had gifted him the house as a wedding present, yet they behaved as if they still owned it. They would often come over unannounced, barging in and immediately taking charge. "Donna, make us some coffee," Susan would command the moment she entered, and I complied silently, avoiding any conflict. Susan would often remind me, pointing at objects around the house like the TV, "Remember, Donna, in case of a divorce, you can't claim this." It was a constant reminder that nothing there was truly mine. As time passed, Daniel began to change as well. He wasn't the man I had fallen in love with. He started to join his parents in making jokes at my expense. One evening, while I was choosing an outfit for a family gathering, I asked Daniel for his opinion. "This one makes you look less drab," he said, laughing. It hurt because it seemed he had become a different person around his parents, no longer the supportive partner I knew. Living in that house felt like being an outsider, an unwelcome intruder in what was supposed to be my own home. I held on to hope that things might improve, but they only deteriorated. The stress began to affect my health, manifesting as severe stomach pains. I tried to ignore it until one day I collapsed at the library and ended up in the hospital. The doctor diagnosed it as stress-induced. During my hospital stay, Daniel neither visited nor called, deepening my feeling of isolation. Then, a notary visited my hospital room with unexpected news. My great-aunt, whom I barely remembered, had passed away and left me a fortune of $50 million. Suddenly, I was no longer just the poor library girl. When Daniel and his parents heard about my inheritance, their demeanor changed instantly. They visited with all smiles and feigned sweetness. "Darling, we're so happy for you," Susan said, her voice oozing insincerity. "Yes, we're a family. We should support each other," Brian chimed in. Their sudden shift was too stark to trust. After their visit, I overheard them talking outside my room, unaware that I was listening. "She's such a fool. Can you believe our luck?" Daniel laughed. "We need to make sure she doesn't leave you, Daniel. Maybe you should have a child with her. That will tie her down," Susan suggested. Hearing their true intentions made me nauseous. They didn't care about me at all. They were only after my money. I realized then what I had to do. I had to escape from that house, from their manipulative grasp. I had to take control of my life and not be their victim any longer. I left the hospital with a clear plan in my mind. Upon my return home, Daniel and his parents were waiting, pretending to be the caring family they never were. "Oh, Donna, we were so worried about you." Susan exclaimed. I nodded, keeping my expression neutral to not give away my intentions. Daniel approached, greed barely veiled in his tone. So, when do you get the inheritance? I looked at him, the man I thought I loved, and realized he was a stranger to me now. Soon, I said, but it's not something you need to worry about. His smile wavered. But we're married, Donna. What's yours is mine, right? I forced a smile. Of course, darling. That night, as their words of fake concern and overt greed echoed in my mind, I couldn't sleep. I got up and began to write down everything they had done, every moment of deceit, preparing to take decisive steps to reclaim my life and my freedom. When they described it, they likened it to a dam bursting, years of accumulated frustration and pain finally being released. The next morning, I had a meeting with my lawyer. I laid everything out for him, including the prenuptial agreement. He was taken aback, but confirmed that the agreement would shield me. You're doing the right thing, he assured me. Upon returning home, I walked into the living room to find Daniel and his parents waiting. There she is, our brave girl, Brian commented, his smile failing to mask his insincerity. Clutching my purse tightly, I announced, I have something to say. They all turned, curiosity etched on their faces. I'm filing for divorce, I declared, my voice unwavering. The room fell dead silent. Then Susan erupted. What, you ungrateful little... Daniel sprang to his feet. Donna, you can't be serious. We love you. Do you, Daniel? Because I don't feel loved. I feel used. Susan, red-faced with anger, threatened, We'll sue you. We'll take half of your inheritance. I reached into my purse and pulled out a copy of the prenuptial agreement. Actually, you can't. This document states that neither of us can claim the other's property in the event of a divorce. They were dumbfounded. For the first time, I felt completely in control. Standing up, I declared, I'm leaving. I don't want any of you to contact me. I walked out of the house, their shouts and insults fading behind me. It was the most difficult thing I had ever done, but as I drove away, I felt a tremendous sense of relief lifting from my shoulders. I was free from their disdain and their manipulation, and for the first time in a long while, I felt like I could truly breathe. I didn't know what the future held, but I was certain it would be better than my past. I rented a small apartment in the city. It wasn't anything luxurious, but it was mine, and for the first time in years, I felt at peace. I was still navigating the divorce proceedings, but I felt equipped to handle it. One day, I received a call from my lawyer. Donna, there's something you should know about your great-aunt's will, he said, his tone serious. Puzzled, I asked, What about it? He explained, There's a stipulation. You need to use a portion of your inheritance for a charitable cause. It was your great-aunt's final wish. I was taken aback, having had no idea about this. She was quite the philanthropist, the lawyer continued. It seems she wanted to pass that on to you. I hung up the phone, deep in thought. My great-aunt had given me an opportunity to make a positive impact. It felt like a sign, a nudge in a new direction. I began researching charities and causes, eager to do something meaningful, something that would truly make a difference. That's when I discovered a small organization dedicated to aiding women who were victims of domestic abuse. The cause resonated deeply with me. I contacted them and arranged a meeting. The woman I met with, Carol, was passionate and committed. We provide shelter, legal aid, and counseling to women who have nowhere else to turn, she explained. I listened, deeply moved by the stories and the impact of their work. I want to help, I said, infused with a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in years. Under Carol's guidance, I allocated a portion of my inheritance to fund a new shelter. The thought of aiding other women to find their way out of dire situations just as I had filled me with a profound sense of fulfillment. A few weeks later, Carol invited me to the shelter's opening. It was a modest event, but the air was charged with hope and gratitude. As I mingled with the attendees, a familiar face caught my eye. It was Julie, a former colleague from the library. Donna, is that you? She exclaimed, surprised. Julie, it's been so long. I replied, embracing her warmly. What brings you here? She inquired. I shared my story about the shelter and my role in its creation. She listened, eyes wide with amazement. That's incredible, Donna. I had no idea. It's a new chapter for me, I said with a smile. Catching up with Julie felt like reconnecting a missing piece of my life. As the evening concluded, Carol approached me. Donna, I can't thank you enough. This shelter will change lives. Looking around at the faces of the women who now had a safe haven, I felt a warmth in my heart that had been absent for a long time. It's the least I could do, I responded. Life at the shelter became my new normal, each day enriching and fulfilling as I found a purpose that was wholly mine. Then, unexpectedly, my phone rang. It was a number I hadn't seen in a while. Daniel. Hello, Daniel, I answered, keeping my voice steady. Donna, I need to talk to you. Can we meet? It's urgent, he pleaded, sounding desperate. Reluctantly, I agreed to meet him at a public coffee shop, hoping the familiar setting would lend me strength. Facing Daniel, he seemed a shadow of his former self, defeated, almost pitiful. Donna, I made a huge mistake. I want you back. I've realized how much you mean to me, he blurted. I stared at him, feeling only disdain. Why now, Daniel? He sighed. My parents, they controlled everything. They were the reason our marriage failed. I was weak, but I'm different now. Anger surged within me. You blame your parents? You stood by while they mistreated me. You laughed with them, Daniel. He reached for my hand, but I pulled away. Please, Donna, I know I was wrong. I've changed. Looking at him, I saw traces of the man I once loved, but my feelings had irrevocably changed. Changed or not, it's too late. I feel nothing for you, Daniel. Nothing but contempt. His expression fell, and for a fleeting moment, I saw a glimmer of the man I had married. But it was transient. I'm sorry, Daniel, I've moved on. I have a life now, a purpose. There's no place for you in it, I said firmly. He nodded, a look of resignation crossing his face. I understand. I just had to try. Leaving the coffee shop, I felt a profound relief. It was truly over. The next day, we had an event at the shelter. A local artist had donated a sculpture to be unveiled in the garden. As I stood surrounded by people who supported and believed in me, I felt a deep sense of belonging. Julie, my old colleague, stood by my side. You've done something amazing here, Donna, she said, smiling. As the artist revealed the sculpture, a figure of a woman reaching towards the sky, symbolizing hope, strength, and new beginnings, applause filled the air. For a moment, everything felt perfectly aligned. Carol, who had been instrumental in my journey, came over. Donna, this is just the beginning. There's so much more ahead. As I gazed around the room, buzzing with enthusiasm and potential, I couldn't help but acknowledge the transformative journey I had embarked upon. Every day at the shelter brought new experiences, each one building my confidence and affirming my control over my own life. Adding self-defense classes to my routine empowered me further, an endeavor I would never have considered in my previous life. Then, one crisp afternoon, I noticed a familiar car outside the shelter. It was Susan, my ex-mother-in-law, stepping out with a hesitant look. "Donna, we need to talk," she called out, her voice unusually gentle. "I have nothing left to say to you, Susan," I responded, my voice firm yet calm. "Just give me a moment, please. I've come to realize the errors of our ways," she implored. Curious despite myself, I paused to listen. "What is it you want, Susan?" "I'm here to apologize. I've been reflecting on everything and realize now how I treated you. I've lost my son and I don't want to lose you too. You were like the daughter I never had," she confessed, tears welling up in her eyes. I felt a fleeting twinge of compassion but quickly stifled it. "Your actions caused a lot of pain, Susan. An apology doesn't erase that. I've moved on, and I think it's best if you do the same," I stated clearly. Susan reached out, a gesture of reconciliation, but I stepped away. "I appreciate you trying to make amends, but it's too late. Goodbye, Susan." I walked away, feeling her gaze on me, but I was resolute in my decision. The next morning, I found a letter from Daniel's lawyer in my mailbox, challenging the divorce settlement. Unsurprised, I contacted my lawyer, Rachel, who was sharp and assertive. "He's grasping at straws, Donna. The prenuptial is ironclad. He's just trying to shake you," she confidently declared. "Let's proceed. I'm not intimidated by him anymore," I affirmed. At the courthouse, confidence buoyed me as I faced Daniel and his legal team. There was a brief moment when our eyes met, and I saw a hint of the old Daniel, but it quickly faded. The judge heard our arguments and upheld the prenuptial agreement. Daniel's appeal was swiftly dismissed. Relief and vindication flowed through me. Daniel approached me afterward, remorse in his voice. "Donna, I'm sorry, I was wrong," he admitted. I looked at him, seeing the man I once loved but now felt nothing for. "Goodbye, Daniel. I wish you well," I said, and walked away with a newfound closure. Now the shelter was gearing up for a major fundraiser, and the community support was overwhelming. The night of the event was vibrant, filled with people eager to contribute. I realized how far I'd come, from a reserved and subdued woman to a vibrant advocate for others. Julie, my friend and former colleague, came up to me. "Donna, what you've achieved is incredible," she beamed. "We did it together, and there's still so much ahead," I replied, filled with pride and determination. The fundraiser was a success, a testament to the support and belief of the community. Standing there, I knew I was exactly where I needed to be, surrounded by people who uplifted and inspired me. This was my life now, rich with purpose and community,